Hello everybody and welcome to Show Studio. This is Head-to-Head Couture, Autumn-Winter 18. It's the last head-to-head of the series and I'm very happy to welcome back our lovely Stephen Jones.
Hello Mimma, it's lovely to be here for the Haute Couture.
Yeah, so great to have you back. We couldn't do Haute Couture without you.
Oh.
Well, first of all, you're there and working it, so you have a lot of insights that we don't. And second, it's lovely to talk to you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you.
I personally think it was quite an extraordinary couture week, and apart from one or two things that really blew my mind, and before going there, I would like to see if you agree on the fact that, as some people said, it was a sort of a return to elegance, return to simplicity, return to the quality of the clothes, the real meaning of couture, the atelier. What did you think?
I think absolutely that's correct, and I think it's so strange because often people will say, oh, what's the meaning of couture? I mean, this time there was not enough time to actually ask that question. Nobody asked it because suddenly it's so vibrant. And I think that the couture, of course, it just follows on from the men's show almost immediately afterwards. And somehow, in the cycle of fashion, there's so much fashion nowadays, it's just this block of fashion, which happens in Paris, is suddenly incredibly important. And whether it's men's or the haute couture, somehow it's joined together. And I think joined together in people's mind. You know, if people are Instagramming fashion, for example, you know, you're doing men's one week and then haute couture the next week. It's not the shape of the program changes or something. It's sort of all the same. So people look at it in a bit of the same way. So it is a continuous thing. So to see the men's shows, which also there was a certain return to elegance as well.
And a lot of talk of couture.
Really, and then a talk of couture with Kim Jones going to Dior Man.
John doing artisanal for men.
Yeah. And then going into the haute couture collections. And it just seems to be, in a world of white t-shirts, wow, these are amazing clothes which can cost a fortune but represent something more than pieces of fabric.
So you're saying that what you just said means that it brings it more down to reality?
In a way, I think people are hungry for something which is more special. I think they understand couture, they understand haute couture, there's every haute couture house is doing little films of the techniques in the workroom to show the embroideries. What's extraordinary at Valentino, they showing all the ladies from the workroom, and they do a film every week of a dance on a Friday afternoon. Pier Paolo does this, so you really get an idea of what's going into those clothes.
But isn't that more for the sake of social media than the actual sake of what's going into the clothes? It's not negative for me, but I think all the content created around even couture, not only ready to wear or whatever else, is very much linked to social media, isn't it? Or to attract a younger audience.
Well, you could say that social media is just a photograph. I mean, is there any difference between a photograph and social media? The real thing is actually being there at the show. The rest of it's communication.
Yes, but that's what people then can consume and can feel close to. I mean,
the one time that somebody really didn't want anybody to see their show was Tom Ford, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when he started to show Ready to Wear, his women's wear, and that's when he said there was no photographers allowed.
I remember
that really did not work out.
No, that's why he changed his mind immediately, and he said, well, no, it did work out, but times have moved on. But anyway, to go back to this young people couture technique Instagram, it was quite interesting to read.
There's the ladies in the workroom.
It was quite interesting to read Mr. Armani saying that he wanted to attract a young audience and then doing something that wasn't that young. And on the other hand, John Galliano and his amazing podcast that now he started doing, where he literally gives an homage to the young people, he called them the stagiaires, so the intern that work in his atelier, and he said, I feed from them, I feed from what they say and what they do with social every day. So it was quite interesting to see how actually the older generation is trying to adapt more and more, isn't it?
I think it's so interesting, the idea of age, because say for example, there are a whole new generation of haute couture clients who are prepared to spend £50,000 on a day wear outfit and £100,000 on an evening dress, and often they're from the Far East, and the reason that they're buying haute couture is because it looks like haute couture and it's a big evening dress. It doesn't matter for them whether it looks young or old. If you're 19, you want a great big frock with...
That looks expensive.
It looks expensive, and it's layers and layers of tulle and that whole thing, and it goes into that whole sort of French luxury thing. That's the dream that they're buying into. That's why they're prepared to spend that amount of money on an amazing Chanel evening dress or a Dior or a Valentino. For John, for example, is a very, very different point of view. For example, the Margiela collection is the artisanal collection, and it was always about having something which is handmade and homemade. So yes, of course there are extraordinary people who work with John, and in fact Rafael Elado, who is the head of the atelier there, used to be a Dior in the haute couture, so he is a fantastic technician. But John in a way has done that and has want to move on to something else, so he's doing something different. So I think it is almost pure creation rather than haute couture, and that's what John's doing, and that's why it looks so extraordinary. But I think for me what I loved about this collection is that all the different periods of John's life, whereas he was in London, when he was doing his own collection in Paris, then moving to Dior and then Margiela, somehow in this collection all those different things came together. And
that's very interesting. Can you elaborate?
Because when you look at these silhouettes, I sort of know where they're coming from. Yes, there's an element of Margiela, but there's the grandness of a mid-century Dior or a Balenciaga. There's a feeling for Madame Grey. There's all the history of fashion and all the modernity of what he's doing now in the Instagram.
But that was the genius
of this. And he pulls it all together.
He propelled the real culture of couture into a far, far future, and nobody can try to do this. Nobody can copy this. And that's...
Oh, believe me, they'll try.
Yeah, yes, but good luck to them. I mean, it's the simple thing, and he explains this, the simple thing of making the girls wearing the thighs instead of on the legs, on the whole silhouette, and suddenly making it look vintage. Yeah. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, suddenly you see a flapper dress, and all these layers, he calls them the native digital or the whatever nomad, because they wear whatever they have to run away into somewhere else. I think it's just mind-blowing genius.
I mean, I think that outfit on the right, the lavender cape, which is cut away, I love that. That's lavender, number one, is probably the most difficult colour in the entire planet to work with.
He was comparing this to a lipstick of, I don't remember who that.
Well, yes, but the fact of the matter is that when you do lavender, it automatically looks very Queen Mother. And,
a little bit.
And if you were to ask John, he would say that too. He understands that. That's why it's maybe the most dangerous colour to go into, and what he's achieved in that is something fantastic. So we have this funny sort of courage-ish type cape with the 50s va-va-voom dress coming from underneath. And the
very simple, by the way,
it's
the
very
shape
simple.
of the dress.
The technique, the construction is genius. And I love the fact that it's made in sort of a student-y way, because it's just cut raw, but it isn't faked haute couture to make it look pretty. It is in its rawness state. It has got the rawness of early Vivienne that John was absolutely into.
As in Westwood?
As in Westwood, yes.
Is that...
Talking of which, isn't that going to be a genius collaboration?
Ricardo Tisci, Burberry, and
Wow, I think it's sold out already.
Yeah, let's talk about that next season. It's funny you pick up that look, because that's the one I spend the most time on, the look, and that's the one where I see the past and the future the most.
Yeah, yeah.
There is another one
absolutely.
that we will probably find, but I stopped the other day when I was really studying this, and I asked our fashion editor, Georgina, I said, am I wrong? But I see the 20s in some of this. Propelled into
and
the
that
future.
big one, which was just coming up before, if we go back, I mean,
Which one?
The one in the centre, I mean, this looks like a Poiret coat, or it could be a touch of Romeo Gigli. You know, there's so many different references. But yes, there are all those references. But what's most important is John's creation within this.
But let me ask you something that some of our audience will probably comment about. This is very detached from reality. I mean, and that's also something that I care about and I'm interested about. But what about the typical couture lady from Houston, Texas, or Dubai, who doesn't have the same culture that you have, and they sit in front row? Will they buy any of this? Not that I really care, because I still think it's genius, but will they? Or will they ask for something different?
Maybe they will do, and maybe they love the idea and they know that John Galliano is a genius, and they'll go to him and they'll say, oh, I'd like to have something like that, or I would love the collar to be draped like that. But the point of haute couture is the joining of somebody, the client's wishes with the creator's wishes. So say, for example, the outfit on the left, maybe that will translate into a pale blue jacket with a simple pale blue pair of pants. And John understands about making that harmony between the woman and the clothes very well.
Yeah.
But is that society hostess in Houston necessarily a target client? I don't think so,
Not
particularly.
really.
But there will be an Asian client who will get that, or Bjork will want to have that, or Rihanna will want to have that.
I see Rihanna in many of these.
And all of those ladies would love to wear
There's
something
so
like
much in there that I think
because
is
they
so desirable.
appreciate John's creativity and actually wouldn't want to change it, because what they're buying is the purity of something.
Yes. I mean, this show really blew my mind, and I'm so happy when I listen to John's podcast with his voice being so happy, so excited. He's in such a good place, and you can see it in what he delivers. I mean, he's really in a good place. But moving on, otherwise we only talk about John Galliano.
Which we could do. Maybe we should just do one program about John Galliano.
Well, I need to talk, since you're here, especially and wearing that beautiful white hat. It's black and white, but you should know that it's really white and beautiful. I would like to talk about the Dior show. Maria Grazia talked probably more than anybody else about, simplifying and making something sleek and show the power of the dress and not really showing the techniques, but that you feel when you wear it, whatever, we all read about that. And some people said it was pretty, but it was boring. It was pretty, but it was a tad repetitive. And it was very pretty. And so my question to you, because you work with her and you know her, I think she's very brave, because she's being criticized on and on and on again, but she continues doing what she thinks she should do, with a huge respect for Mr. Dior and the archives, and apparently it's never sold more, so it's very well received.
Yeah.
What can you give us from what we don't know and don't read?
Because she's creating clothes for women, not the press.
That's a very good answer, yeah.
Absolutely. I think she understands the press and the value of the press, but ultimately she wants to dress women in haute couture. So that's why she's doing these clothes. She is not creating it for an image on the page. That's not her interest, really. I think she's done that in her past. I mean, she knows the value of social media and all that thing, but especially in this collection, I think her inspiration came from lots of different things. I mean, a little bit the decor, which was here, which was the showing of all she showed all the toiles of the collection.
Yeah, we can see them in the back,
all around
in the background,
the room, and then the clothes walked up and down.
And they were the actual toile of this actual collection, right? Okay.
Yeah, and she spent a lot of time in the atelier watching the techniques and talking to the ladies who were making the clothes and finding out about their hopes and dreams and why they were doing it, and what they hoped to create and what they look for in clothes. So it was a very different approach from doing, 14th century space age or Tudor.
That wouldn't be her, and that wouldn't be Maria Grazia.
I mean, she could do that. I mean, obviously, in her, it's a different design brief. For example, at Valentino, she had one design brief. At Dior, it's a different design brief. If she was doing her own collection, that would be a different design brief.
What's the design brief here? Let's dress women?
Yeah, to dress women. I think she really wanted to do a very commercial haute couture collection. But for example, when she asked me...
tell us about the hats.
She asked me about hats, and she said, I mean, we're quite close. She said, Stephen, I know we can make crazy things, we can make beautiful things, but in reality, what do people order? What do people order from Dior for hats? And I had a long conversation. I said, well, most people, if they're ordering a haute couture outfit, why are they ordering it? It's not because they're staying at home watching telly. Or show studio, of course.
Yeah, in couture.
They're buying it for a specific occasion. And if they're buying a hat, it's to go with day wear, because if they're buying something for evening, they're wearing it inside, so they're probably not wearing a hat. They might be wearing a headdress if it's a ball, but maybe they're wearing a tiara or having their hair done. But if they're wearing an haute couture outfit during the day, it's because they're going to an official function. It's because they're going to maybe a religious service or a military service, or they're a very formal service. So for that, it's not about being fashionably dressed, it's about being correctly dressed. It's a very, very different brief. Yes, they should be fashionable as well, but say, for example, if you're buying day wear, and most people don't do this, but say, for example, you're going to some military event or something like that, the people who you're meeting are maybe like giving their lives for you. So, the idea of being fashion is a bit ridiculous. You just want to be correctly dressed, sort of look polite, and beautiful too. So that was why I did these little berets, because when people go to Dior, they think of, yes, it's French. Christian Dior himself, before he did fashion designs, he did hat design. He was a hat designer.
Yes.
And he loved the little beret, because when Dior himself was designing, when they created the House of Dior, the hat itself was not important. What was important, it continued the lines of the clothes. So that is why the hats actually did not match the clothes. The hats matched the people who were wearing them. So for example, girls with dark hair wore black hats and not navy blue hats to match the clothes, and girls who were blonder or fairer had nude coloured hats, because that blended with their faces.
Okay.
So
nothing to do with what they were wearing, actually.
No, because actually the hat's about beauty, not about fashion.
And that makes sense. Is what you're wearing the same kind of beret that was in this show?
No, this is a soft one. These are actually made from vintage felts.
They're not soft.
They're blocked. They're made from felt that we found from a dealer in Paris. So these are all vintage felts from the 40s and 50s. And the veils that we had, which were very extraordinary patterns in silk, most of them were archive veils that we actually had in the workroom, I think since the late 50s, early 60s.
Okay, they're very pretty.
Yeah.
But so why is the press?
Anyway, that was
why is the press so hard with Maria Grazia, and nobody really says that Chanel wasn't really exciting? Yeah. They think that the grey of Chanel was so modern and fresh, and this pretty collection by Dior was boring.
Well, at Chanel,
help me understanding that.
Okay, so the main thing about Chanel is a fabulous suit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's day wear. Mm-hmm. And what people the idea of Dior, when people think of Dior, is a huge ball gown, mm-hmm. Which is extravagant and sexy. And that's what Dior did. He created media-friendly va-va-voom ball gowns in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yes.
For an international clientele. At the time, a lot of people thought they were indescribably vulgar. Yeah. Chic society thought they were very vulgar. Yeah. But they made very pretty pictures, and Eva Peron looked amazing in them. So, but Chanel. Anyway, she's this was very much about the technique, and I think next season it'll move on to something different. You know, one thing about Dior, which is very different to the other houses in fashion, for example, Vuitton or Prada or whatever, those are all about a history, or Hermes. They were very much about history, and often about leather goods, and it was very much about development every season. Dior was about the whim of the moment. It was not about classics. It was about every season being different and the new exciting thing. So I think next season will be very different to this.
Okay. So we're not talking about Chanel.
Oh, no, absolutely. We can talk about Chanel. I mean, Chanel's extraordinary,
I know it's about day wear, and I know it's about a great suit, and I know many things. I mean, we're not going to say them. I was much more underwhelmed by this than most of the people around, the critics. I didn't see the modernity people were talking about. I don't find it modern.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's your personal opinion. Is it modern or is it old? I don't. It's funny. Modernity, something which looks modern, something which is old-fashioned. Are those sort of judgments that you can apply to fashion now? Are those important?
I think so, because that's what I expect from fashion, to give me something that moves forward, give me something that brings things to a different level.
Yes.
Not brings me back.
But that's your perception at your age, sitting here today now. If you're in Latin America and you're 16, what's modern for them and what's old-fashioned for them is completely different. We're Western European, but actually it's a global business. So what's modern or what's old? Somebody who's, say for example, somebody who's wearing vintage or something like that, that can look incredibly modern.
Yeah, because of the way they wear it, you can wear vintage in a... But I mean, let's define modern. What I mean is, I'm not talking here only about relevance or trends or cool, whatever. I'm really talking about something that excites me because because actually, even in Latin America, you're influenced. I mean, we all move forward, maybe later than some, maybe we people move forward. You see what I'm trying to say? I didn't see anything in this show apart from probably pure commerce, and I'm the one who always says commerce is not an insult. It's important.
Well, maybe commerce is modern. Maybe that's the thing.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe you're right.
Certainly, in the feeling that I felt going around Paris was super extravagant clothes, which are just about themselves. Is actually not modern.
Not modern at all.
That's really, really old-fashioned. Actually, what's modern is something that people can wear. Now I've said it.
Hence, I would love to move on to Valentino, which I thought was an extraordinary show of modernity, wearability, commerce, ideas. I mean, the master of color, the master of reimagining the shapes, and then he says, "No, there's no inspiration."
He's got a 60s hairdo. Sorry.
Well, but I mean, I'm looking at the clothes here,
and it was fantastic.
It was just incredible.
And if one vision of couture, and it's not everybody's vision, but his vision, which also appeals to so many people, is that couture should be an effervescent, wonderful extravaganza to make people dream, to see colour and excitement. And I mean, that's what we love, is the fact we love this show because it was really exciting.
Yeah, but I didn't dislike the subdued beige and nudes of Maria Grazia.
No.
I mean, so it's not, I get that, but this, probably this was, I think it was very emotional as well. It was glorious.
I think there's a glory about this, a glory in people's appearance. In a funny way, I think that glory in appearance is something which was very John Galliano at Margiela. There's something about the glory of appearance, the celebration of appearance, which this is about as well.
It is, but it's much more, and it's not an either or criticism, but this is more linked to reality. It's people that are not fashion critics, they relate to this easily. I mean, I did my little focus groups with friends. They didn't understand Galliano as much. They cannot understand how I was so excited about that.
I mean, that
while they're easily excited about this.
I mean, that sort of mauvey blue coat that we see on the right, I don't see that as being very different to the Margiela.
I agree with you.
I think it's about the same thing. It's
I think it's in the
joy,
whole,
volume, and I mean, what's different in this is the styling, because she has not got a blue knitted microfiber mask thing on, which goes over her body, but it could be styled up
like that.
Well,
I agree. But
if you're a fashion editor, those could be facing pages. Those two outfits.
That's a good hint for someone. Yeah. But I thought. The fact that he said, I didn't have a specific inspiration, I didn't want to do something specific, I just wanted to do beautiful clothes, and that's what he did. And also he was very smart, he named them every couturier petite main named their own according to an emotion, a memory, so he gave something from the heart, and that's really smart, because in the age of just throwing images at people and making them look things, he made people stop and think and feel. That went very well. Yeah,
but I think this, as well as the mood of fashion, his asking his workroom to name the clothes that they were working on, Maria Grazia spending the time doing that, even Chanel, the set, it wasn't about going to the moon or something like that. It was about reading a book and walking down the banks of the Seine. So there's something which is sort of wound down or slightly calmer. It's not about a big sort of exciting thing. It's somehow about discretion.
Apart
he
from
said,
probably the
loving
hair,
the giant pink
apart from maybe
dress, the hairdos.
Kaya Gerber hair is not really pared down, but
I would love to know how Guido did that hair.
You don't know?
No.
You haven't talked to him?
That must be an incredibly expensive hairdo, because that's all natural hair.
So what do you mean by expensive? Like it lasts forever to do it?
Well, no.
You have to take a long time to do it?
Well, no, that's,
Because he added a lot of hair.
Yeah, of course. I mean, she's probably got 10 wigs on, but, this is, but when you're buying fake hair, real hair, because it's real hair, because fake hair can't be styled like that. So, this is for £1, that's £100, that's £300, that's £1,000, that's £10,000.
And there are many of those.
And there's many of those, so that, I'm sure her hair was more expensive than the dress.
Than the dress. You call them wigs, but they're probably extensions, aren't they? Can we find a close-up of Kaya Gerber hair?
Instagrammed a profile picture.
Yeah, there it is.
I mean, hello.
It's quite
Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was that hairdo.
It's quite extraordinary. So is this the alternative to a Stephen Jones hat?
Yeah.
Is this a competitor to you?
I mean, we were very reasonable in comparison.
In comparison to that?
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. And of course, one of the things in haute couture is that you can dress your head up to balance the clothes, or you dress it down to balance the clothes.
So is that part of the whole couture narrative?
Yes,
the hair, the head?
The head, yes. The hair and the jewellery and the shoes, everything is special. Everything is made specially for that particular client. Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by that hair, and can you see our own Nick Knight there applauding?
Oh yes.
Pier Paolo picture.
He gets around.
Enjoy. He's on Instagram. Seeing. And before we say goodbye,
we haven't talked about so many people. I mean,
I know. The Givenchy. I would like to have a mention of Claire Givenchy. I personally even prefer couture to her ready-to-wear so far. I thought it was a beautiful homage to Monsieur de Givenchy. Yeah. It was a tad too much, maybe the song, whatever, but if you do it, just do it. You know, if you do it, just do it to the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is
And
her
the collection
second,
was really
her third couture show.
Second, I think.
Second. People didn't think she could do couture. I think she's just shown
She's
that
doing it really well.
absolutely
She's
really
doing
well,
really well.
and a very interesting
And she seems to
woman's
enjoy.
point of view, and you know, menish as well, and it's great. I mean, watch this space. I think
You
she's
don't
doing,
work with her, do you?
No. I mean, we know each other a little bit,
Yeah.
but we haven't worked together.
I thought there were many beautiful things, remarkable things here. It was a very strong homage, so it was obviously looking back to the archives, but re-seen with a woman's eye and a modern eye, and I think she's riding the success of the royal wedding and whatever happened there. It was the beginning, I think, of couture, and I was like, wow, that's a strong start.
I think it's a really
isn't
strong
it?
statement, and I think she's really going to go places. I mean, there's fantastic things. And it's very interesting, that balance between classicism and modernity. And I think for haute couture clients around the world, she's really going to attract them by showing this sort of collection, which has got all those haute couture codes, really, but somehow is done in a modern way, and it's client friendly.
And it's incredibly chic.
Yeah.
That's also client friendly. And I'm sure that the royal wedding
and the
success will
expensive.
help attract to the brand.
Yeah, one of the things that
they look expensive for sure, yes.
Haute couture clients want things to look expensive. It not means they want to have lots of embroidery, but they want the fabrics to be of exquisite quality. You know, they want all the finishes to be perfect. That's what they're paying for.
Are you allowed to talk about the couture hat you make for the Duchess? I've seen in your Instagram, so it's public.
Well, day before yesterday.
The day before, the green one, right?
Yeah,
and also the black one at the.
Yesterday's as well for the RAF.
So you are now the official
no,
hat maker of the Duchess.
At all. She goes to different people, and you know, she loves fashion, and she loves making that choice between different people to create.
Does she enjoy hats? The fact that now she has to get used to wear a hat. Does she like it?
Yes.
She looks pretty. So
yeah.
Tell me about that hat. It's really beautiful.
About this particular hat.
Yeah.
But this was to go with a Ralph Lauren outfit, and this was a picture actually that she found, which was a hat reference, and she showed me something. Then I interpreted that picture, and when I was working on it, I realized that was made in a very specific way. Normally when you have a crown of a hat, then you've got the brim which comes from underneath. But this is a 1930s technique where the brim is actually mounted on the crown. You can see it coming just underneath that.
Yes.
So this was actually quite reminiscent of the hats that the Queen Mother wore in the 1930s, and we quite like that. What you can't really see from here, it's made from crinoline, so that's a rayon, and then it's got veiling put on the top.
I can see the veil though.
Yeah, so it was just the colour and a very simple texture, because as well, she wants to wear things which are sort of simple and elegant and fit in, and she was going, but for example for this was all those things, but with a touch of femininity, because it is a christening.
Yeah, exactly. But what I want to understand, you know, when a hat is, I don't know how you call it, excuse me if the terms are all wrong, but when it's, you know, bending on one side, so it leaves one side of the face completely free. So
there's a certain amount of, you know, a hat can be symmetrical, as in 1960s hats, or it can be asymmetrical.
But is there not a protocol, but is there something that it's better for some occasions? Like this is a christening and it's a very official occasion. You can see her face perfectly, so she has like this decoration on her head, but nothing is hidden. Is that something? It's just a choice, or is there something that you would advise?
You know, when you're making a hat for anybody, the hat itself is not important. It's just a frame for the face.
Okay.
It's all about the person who's wearing it. I mean, yes, of course I make hats, so to me the hat is important, but really it's about her face and how it frames her face and cuts across her face and what she's got to do in it and how it fits into the occasion.
This one is probably one of my favorites that she's been wearing so far.
Gorgeous in this. I mean, great, and I think the colour is perfect on her too.
And it has to be the same fabrics and colour of the dress. That's a better choice.
No, we dyed everything to match.
But I mean, yeah, no, I know. But you would suggest to wear the same colour, and you would suggest the match.
Sometimes, you know, if people wear matching things, it tends to look less fussy and more elegant. If, say, for example, she was wearing a dark green dress with a pink hat or something, it might almost be too frivolous or too attention-grabbing. And this it can just be more discreet.
Yeah, it's more discreet. I would probably not want to match, but, you know, I'm not the Duchess, so I won't be allowed.
But funny enough, when I was making a hat for you, you know, your hair is such a statement. I would want to do something which really echoed, I mean, a little bit like the Dior hats, I would want to do something which really echoed your hair.
You came in once with a mask for me, remember?
Made a slightly different silhouette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to follow and to see what's going to happen soon. Let's see you next season, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.